Hi, my name's Heather. I want to go over a few key words that will help you understand what the IRB process is as you're preparing your materials. Keywords that we're going to discuss today are IRB, feasibility, anonymity, confidentiality, eligibility criteria, permission, recruitment, consent, and city. These are the most common terms that you're going to use when working with human subjects and submitting your IRB application for heritage. So let's talk about these words individually. IRB stands for the Institutional Review Board, and it's basically the department that is responsible for protecting human subjects in research. It's made up of trained individuals who will review the research submission and make sure that human participants are safe as you conduct your research. Feasibility, this is something that pertains to you as the researcher. That's the possibility of being successful, meaning you want to set up a research project where you're actually going to be able to collect the data and that the participants are clear in the type of data that you're going to collect. Feasibility is important for you as a researcher because you want to make sure that you get the data that you want. So setting up a study that's feasible, meaning the participants are willing to participate and participate in the activities that you want them to do, is really important. Next is anonymity, and you're going to notice that I've crossed it out. In the world of social behavioral and educational research, anonymity is really something of the past. Data privacy, protecting data, understanding where data is coming from, it's really difficult now to be 100% anonymous. A true anonymous data collection would be if you were in a grocery store and you had a shoe box and people could stuff the box whether or not they like salt and vinegar or regular barbecue potato chips. It's really hard to be totally anonymous when you're collecting data in an online forum using something like SurveyMonkey, where there could be third-party people getting the data, or how does SurveyMonkey protect the data. If you're doing an interview and you record it and you transcribe it, you have information sitting on computers get hacked. So what we like to do, instead of saying we're going to keep data anonymous, because that's a lot to promise when you consider how easy it is for even the best companies to get hacked, is we like to say confidentiality. Confidentiality means that the researcher may know the participants, maybe you don't, but you're going to do the best that you can to protect the participants, including any data that you collect about them. So here at Heritage, we're adopting that you're going to do the best of your ability to keep the information confidential. Remember that even your smartwatch, your smartphone, the location devices on your computer, Google, everything tracks you. It's really difficult to keep things 100% anonymous. So we're going to stick with making sure as a researcher you do your best to keep the data confidential. Permissions are something that you may or may not need depending upon where you're collecting data. For example, if you're collecting data from a school district, you will need permissions from the school district. If you're collecting data from a company, you might need that. If you're collecting data on campus, there might be certain policies that you have to follow in order to get the proper permissions. You're going to want to make sure that you have the proper permissions before and during IRB approval to be doing what you want to do. Sometimes this can take a while, so you're going to want to go ahead and be sure that you are thinking ahead if you need to get permissions from a certain group. Recruitment means how you're going to actually get the research participants and advertising to them so that they can figure out if they qualify, if they're eligible to be in your study, and how long all of the activities are going to take. This happens after you're done with IRB approval. You go out and you recruit your participants. Prior to IRB approval, you go ahead and get all the materials ready. It might be social media posts or flyers. Maybe you're going to have a telephone script. Maybe you're going to be hanging signs up around town. So the materials are prepared prior, but when you're actually recruiting the participants, that's after IRB approval. Next, we have eligibility criteria. Eligibility criteria are all of the criteria that would define the characteristics of the people who are going to be in your study. It's required that the people meet these criteria. So for example, maybe you want people of a certain age or have a certain work position in a certain company. Those are your criteria so that whomever would be a part of the study would absolutely know whether or not they could qualify to be in your study. Consent is a very important process. It's the most important process in any research study. It's called consent process. Consent process is something that you present to the research participants through a letter, and the letter outlines all of the parts of the research study, including whether or not they're eligible and the activities, all of which are optional for the research participants. The consent letter is like your snapshot of your research study. A research participant should be able to look at your consent letter and know whether or not they're able to be in your study, their rights, who to contact if they have a problem. These sections of the consent letter, which you'll find in the templates on the website, these are mandated by the Office of Human Research Protections, which is the agency that governs IRBs. And finally, CITI. CITI is a training. We subscribe to CITI. It's a group of experts who've created classes and modules within those classes to make sure that researchers have the very basics for training. When you're done going through your CITI training, you get a certificate, just like it looks like a little diploma that you would be able to hang up if you wanted to, but it's something that will be submitted with your IRB application. CITI, again, is a subscription. It's a subscription we pay for. We pay for the service, and this service gives you, the researcher, the training that you'll need, the very basic training that you'll need to interact with human participants. Thank you so much. We look forward to your application.